Hello everyone, my name is Sean and welcome to SpeechLeech, where I learn a new language that you, the audience, vote for, based off of 4 choices. But also talk about the history, the culture, and the people themselves behind the language, because these are the things that truly give a language its color and character. Yeah, sorry I kind of screwed up again on the delivery of the video on time, especially because it was supposed to take 2 weeks, but I'll do better next time. Now back to more pressing matters. The most recent winner was the Estonian language, also known as Eesti keelt. It was such a close game between Estonian, traditionally seen as one of the most difficult languages in Europe, and Esperanto, literally the easiest language in the world. And of course, Estonian ended up winning. I do want to give a quick disclaimer that I'll be there in every one of these results videos. I do not claim to be fluent nor even conversational in any of the languages that I learn over the course of the SpeechLeech project. I'm a super beginner, and I wouldn't count any of them as languages that I speak when asked how many languages do you speak. In any case, with that out of the way, let's jump right into the world of Estonian. Spoken by about 1.1 million people, Estonian is native to Estonia, a small country in the northeast of Europe that sits right below Finland, bordered by Russia to the east and Latvia to the south. Estonian is the sole official language of Estonia and one of the official languages of the European Union. Despite being one of the least populous members of the European Union, Estonia is one of the most developed countries not just in Europe but in all of the world, consistently ranking quite high in the Human Development Index. Additionally, the capital city, Tallinn, often ranks as one of the nicest cities to live in the world in various rankings and indexes, and I could totally see that. Tallinn is awesome. Estonia is one of the 3 Baltic states, along with Latvia and Lithuania, so called because they sit at the shores of the Baltic Sea. Notice how earlier I said northeast of Europe? That's because Estonia is officially classified as Northern Europe, just like the rest of the Baltics, and there's always these memes about Estonia being Nordic and stuff, but come on Estonia, you're Eastern European at heart, just like the rest of us. So let's just settle on Northeast, eh? Interestingly enough, according to a research study conducted by the Estonian government in 2013, about half of Estonian youth consider belonging to a Nordic identity as being either important or very important to them, and then another half have the same attitude towards a Baltic identity. Anyway, the word Estonia, or Eesti, has a very interesting history. The earliest reference to anything in the area goes back to the year 98 AD by a Roman politician and historian known as Tacitus, who mentions Aestian tribes, or Aesti. And then for the next millennia and a half, there were a bunch of other similar variations like Estlatum, Hestia, Eastland. Despite the name persisting throughout the following centuries, the people themselves living there didn't really call themselves that. Reportedly, they mostly referred to themselves as Maarahvas, or country folk, for ages, and the word Eesti didn't really catch on until a period much later known as Erkamisaeg, or the Estonian National Awakening. It got popularized by Estonian writer Johann Voldemar Janson, who, in 1857, began publishing his newspaper Pärnu Postimees, still published today by the way, in which he wrote Tere armas Eesti rahvas, or Hello dear Estonian people. Since then, especially after independence was achieved in 1918, everyone gradually began calling the country that, or variations of it, like Estonia, Estoni, Estland, etc. Funnily enough, the only languages where Estonia is called anything else is in Finnish and Latvian, where Estonia is called Viro, after the historic county of Virumaa, and Igaunia, after the county of Ugandi, respectively. In any case, in 1989, Estonia, along with Latvia and Lithuania, participated in the Baltic Way, a 675-kilometer-long human chain across all 3 Baltic states as a protest against Soviet rule, and then, on August 20th, 1991, independence was achieved once again. Today, Estonia is part of the EU and a ton of other super cool organizations, and is considered to be one of the world's most digitally advanced societies, with such achievements as being one of the top startup hubs in Europe, being the first country in the world to provide voting over the internet in 2005, and offering e-residency in 2014. Also amazing chocolate and candy and beer and this insane pickle spread which I just can't find anywhere. One of the primary reasons why Estonia might feel a bit out of place, not just in the Eastern European category but also in the Baltic category, is because of the language. While the majority of Eastern European countries speak a language of the Slavic branch of Indo-European, and Latvia's and Lithuania's languages are of the Baltic branch of Indo-European, Estonian isn't even Indo-European at all. It's part of the Finnic branch of the Uralic language family, also known as the Finno-Ugric language family. Estonian is the second most spoken Finnic language, the first one, as you may have guessed, being Finnish. The two are not mutually intelligible, but at the end of the day, Estonian and Finnish are sister languages, kind of like Latvian and Lithuanian, which is why it makes sense why Estonians might sometimes feel a bit closer to their big sister Finland rather than to their weird cousins Latvia and Lithuania. If we were to look at it a bit more in depth, it turns out that the lexical similarity between the two is about 50%, which means theoretically a speaker of one of the languages would be able to understand about half of the words of the other. For example, numbers will be super similar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's also always fun to look at some false friends between languages that are similar. False friends are words that may look and sound very similar, but mean very different things. In Finnish, hallitus means government, while in Estonian it means mold. In Finnish, pulma means problem, while in Estonian, pulmad means wedding. From what I've gathered, it's supposedly easier for Estonians to understand Finnish people rather than the other way around, due to Finnish being a bit more conservative with fewer foreign loanwords, but also because of the presence of Finnish media, especially for older generations. However, as mentioned in the previous video, Estonian has of course been quite heavily influenced by Russian, but also by Germanic languages such as German, Swedish, and Danish, due to Estonia being a part of all these empires and kingdoms over the centuries. Up to 1/3 of Estonian vocabulary comes from Germanic languages, however you won't recognize them right away because they do a pretty good job at Estonianizing them. Some examples I gave in the previous video include words like kol, roim, siiras. Another big chunk of the vocabulary was allegedly created using a formation known as ex nihilo. Ex nihilo, in Latin, literally means out of nothing or from nothing, meaning that certain words were created literally out of thin air by certain language planners. Some guys like Ado Grenstein and Johannes Avik, for example, are said to have created over 4,000 words that have since entered common use. Some examples include words such as nime, esse, kolp. How do you become a language planner anyway? Is it an appointed position? Do you apply for it? Do you get paid specifically to language plan? If anyone's hiring or anything, hit me up. Estonian also has a lot of random shared vocabulary with Latvian due to the close proximity of the people over the centuries and the whole Livonia thing, despite the two being completely unrelated in terms of language families. When learning Estonian as a speaker of Latvian, it was cool to see how 1 in 1,000 words I'd randomly recognize here and there because they're either the same or very similar. Some examples of these include Maya and Maya, Arst and Arsts, Naba and Naba. Going back to the Finnic language group, Estonians might find themselves able to understand a few words here and there in languages such as Ingrian, Karelian, Votic, Veps, and Kven. Estonian technically also has many dialects, usually subdivided into northern and southern. The northern variants are the most spoken ones, and the ones that are considered the standard, because that's where Tallinn is. Southern dialects like Viro and Seto, for example, have much less speakers, and are mostly spoken just in rural areas. Though some people argue that they are not dialects, but rather separate languages entirely, and honestly, looking at the comparison between Viro, Seto, and Estonian, I'd say fair enough, they look quite different to me, and also some Estonians I've asked say that it's rather difficult for them to understand them as well. Another branch of southern Estonians that I just happened upon are the Leivu and Lutsi Estonians in the territory of modern-day Latvia, and the Krasne Estonians in modern-day Russia. All of those have now unfortunately become virtually extinct due to the people being assimilated into their respective countries. Leivu dialect's last native speaker died in 1988, Lutsi dialect's last speaker died in 2014, and the Krasna have all been linguistically assimilated by Russian a long time ago, but according to this one source from 1994, they're all still aware of their roots and separate identity, despite not speaking their ancestral language anymore. In any case, back to standard Estonian. Estonian is written using the Latin alphabet, though a slightly modified version. You can find the letters A, U, and U for the extra vowels, as well as sh and zh, but these are mostly just found in loan words like shashlik, for example. Estonian has around 28 consonants and 9 vowels with around 36 diphthongs. Diphthongs are basically sounds formed by a combination of 2 vowels, so like hey and päev. Basically, Estonian loves vowels. Edge of ice is jär, work night is tö. There's even this one tongue twister that is made up of entirely just vowels. Au, e, ya, ue, ue, o, ya, ue, au. The standard word order in Estonian is SVO, and they also have 14 grammatical cases, technically 16, which add an unimaginable level of complexity to the language, but it's also what makes it so cool, so fluid, and so expressive. Hopefully you can get a better picture of the language kui ma räägin eesti keelt. Tere, tere õhtust, minu nimi on Sean, kuidas läheb? Hästi, tänan, ja teil? Nägemist. Ma hakkasin fraase õppima mõned nädalad tagasi, siis olin hõivatud ja unustasin. Aga ma hakkasin uuesti palju õppima. Ma arvasin alati, et eesti keel kõlab väga vinge ja väga huvitav. Nüüd ma saan natuke aru. Mulle meeldib väga lugeda eesti keeles sõnu nagu menüü ja proovida saada aru. See on hullumeelne. Ma ei suuda seda uskuda. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kus on tualet? Mis keel on? 1 õllu palun. Mulle meeldib väga külastada Eestit. Ma külastasin Tallinnas, Pärnus, Haapsalus paar korda. Natuke ka Valgas ja Narvas. Kallev šokolaad on väga hea. Võib-olla parem kui laima. Tore alkohol ka. Õlu ja džiin ja Vana-Tallinn. Kui külastate Eestit ja õpite natuke eesti keelt, kõik on väga õnnelikud. Inimesed on väga lahked ja neile meeldib pidutseda. Õpi eesti keelt ja külasta Eestit. Ooh-wee, that took some effort. And we reached the conclusion of today's video. Estonian was a whole lot of fun to learn, especially having lived right next door to Estonia for most of my life. It's been great to get to know our northern neighbors a little bit better. I hope this shows some of you that no matter how big or how small, how easy or how difficult, how useful or useless a language may seem, there ain't nothing stopping you from learning it anyway. Don't be ashamed of your languages, people. Teach them to your children. Pass them on. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon, and maybe press the like and subscribe button. That would be pretty cool of you, you know. Other than that, have a great day. Aitäh ja näeme varsti!